Welcome to a foreigner in the Philippines. Good evening. Well, it's 10 o'clock here. Really, it's bedtime. But I'm sitting here with the company of my cat, Golden, haven't I? I don't know whether you can see. Is she in the picture? Is she? There she is. And she's suffering because she's been on her own all day because Beth went to Cebu and I was out all day, so she came up here, I think, and she was at our house wondering where we were. And now she's doing her performance, which is rolling around. Oh God, I have to show you this. So what are you doing? Huh? What? She just loves. She has an identical twin who is a male, and the male is very standoffish, but this little girl is so affectionate. Actually, she's started ignoring me now. Hey, you started this, didn't you? Did you? She's been jumping up on me. She leaps from the floor straight onto my t-shirt or shirt, and then she bites my nose and gets down again. Well, I think that's all that we're going to get from Golden, which is not really terribly riveting. So I'll go back to doing what I was doing. Okay, so what was I going to talk about? Well, I thought that as Beth has just come back from dealing with documentation and the processing of documentation, I'd let some of you know. Now, I was talking a little while ago to someone who is actually planning on getting his girlfriend to America, and he was naive to the point of disbelief, because he had no idea of how difficult it can be, and apparently it is getting more difficult to get into America. Apparently, and I'm only giving you anecdotal information here, so you need to go to the source if you can and get a straight answer. That in itself would be a miracle, but it's actually not as easy as it used to be. But that would be another video, and it would require a little bit more research on my part, and I don't have it right now. So we're going to go with what I know just from today. Now, when Beth and I got married, we did a few trips on trying to get documents settled, notarized, authorized. I had an old Volkswagen which the documentation was incomplete on. Well, that was back before President Duterte came in and started saying, if you're planning on being corrupt, you better watch out, because I'm going to get you. And so people were more corrupt, and we were advised. We took the ferry up to Manila, and then from Manila we took a bus up to Mabalacat, which is where the Volkswagen was. Now, my ancient Volkswagen. What I did was I made the mistake of not having a CR, which is a certificate of registration, and it has to be the original. So you have to have certain documentations, and Filipinos can be quite difficult on this. They will shunt you off in another direction, is what happens. So we had trouble there because we didn't have proper documentation. And Beth went today to get her passport. Now you would think that that was very simple, wouldn't you? I mean, if you try to get a passport in other countries, it really is fairly straightforward, as long as you have the most simple documentation. Now, why is it not simple in the Philippines? Now, my experience is it's not simple in the Philippines because not everything here is done by computer. Now, anybody who uses a computer, and that must be most people in the world right now, anybody who knows will know that it's very easy to correct a mistake. But if you're typing old-fashioned, remember that? People used to type letters. Well, they're still doing that here, apparently. And so in some offices they're typing stuff out. Now, what this lays them open to is typos. And a typo is not simply a matter of sending the cursor back, deleting and putting the right letter in. It's not as easy as that. If you're as old as me, you'll remember that you used to have that white paper. You stick it in behind the type where it's going to strike on the same letter again, it whites it out, and then you write the right one in. Well, it's a lot easier nowadays, but there are still places where that's how things are being done. When we bought our bike, our motorcycle, we went and signed up for that. It was typed out on an old clanking thing where you put your finger down and press it down, and you need a strong finger. So Beth has been there. Now, mistakes always go back and back, further and further and further and further and further. And they usually are because of typos. So you'll go there, and instead of it saying, let me see, instead of it saying blogs, it says blegs. Instead of it saying leg, it says lag. Instead of it saying push, it says putch. And it gets unseen. It gets pushed out. Now, here's the irony in the Philippines, is that becomes your mistake. So here you are, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, instead of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, or Miss Smith, you're Smith. And instead of being born on the 22nd of July, you were born on the 22nd of June. Well, Christian names are misspelt, surnames are misspelt, and you get these incorrect items on important documents. But the thing is, they're very, very small to your eye as a non-professional, but the people who scan documents all the time, their eye is trained to pick up on these incorrect points. So you might be Gloria Smith in the first few sentences, and now they go along and now they know that they're dealing with Gloria Smith, and then down below it actually says Gloria Smith, and I say, well, this document is no good, you have to take this back and get it corrected. Now, when you take it back to get it corrected, instead of them saying, oh, terribly sorry about this, well, they wouldn't say terribly sorry, would they? Terribly sorry about this. That would be in London, wouldn't it? But they say the Filipino equivalent, or terribly sorry about this, that will be X number of pesos to have it corrected. But it was your mistake. Yes, but in order to have it corrected, that will be your expense. Now, how can you argue with someone who is a government official? I know someone who argued with a government official when he was in the Philippine embassy getting some document that he needed, and the man behind the counter took a dislike to him. Now, this particular guy was obnoxious anyway, so it wasn't really surprising. But that's not really the point, is it? What happened was, in the end, the guy said, well, you're wearing shorts and we don't allow shorts in here. Or he just invented, he said, well, here's a phone number, call this phone number and they'll help you. Next, the man, instead of going, he stood there and he took out his cell phone and he dialed the number, and the phone that sat behind the man that had given him the phone number rang. And he then went over to the counter and said, that's the phone number you gave me. You know, so he won a big victory there, which ended in the man saying, I'm not going to deal with you, I don't like you. And that can happen here. You get someone who's really, really upset by your attitude, and you're not getting anything done. In the end, several security guards came over and persuaded Mr. Obnoxious to leave the office. And that's what happened. Now, it wasn't right, and the way that that was handled in the end is the man, Mr. Obnoxious, gave somebody that was outside, that was some kind of handler, said, look, I need this and I gotta have it, here's 200 pesos or whatever, can you get it for me? And the man says, sure, certainly. He said, just a minute, and he walked out. He walked back into the office. That's my cat's butt. He walked back into the office. He went over to the same man and said, we need to have this. So there, it was stamped and sent out, and it could have been done in the first place. So attitude is everything, right? So you have to make sure when you check documents that they've been spelt properly. Now, here's the rub with Filipinos, and that is that for some strange reason, birth certificates are not accurately filled out. Might be the wrong date on there, it might be a wrong spelling of the name, which is indicated by spelling it correctly in another part of the document, as I explained. So you got to ferret these mistakes out and handle them straight away. So when you go up there, if you're like me, you just go and you assume people are going to do their job, and then you walk away and you find that they don't. So you need to go up, and if you are Carol Smith, make sure that at the bottom you don't become Carol Smith. That's a good tip, and it might save you several journeys, which if you're on the island of Bohol and you have to go to Cebu to do this, you'll be thanking me for that. Make sure that all of the documentation that can be corrected where you live is corrected long before you ever need it, because if you believe that you are planning on going to America, to Germany, to any one of 100 other countries, the Philippines is where you start, and you need to have correct documentation. So this is A Foreigner in the Philippines. I hope that has helped. Bye for now.